Do you take things personally? Do you find it very hard to let go of an emotion once you've got riled up into anger or sadness? It just keeps on hanging around. You can't seem to get over it. Let me tell you why. Number one, as children, we are merged with our parents until we're about 22 or 23. That process of kind of disentangling who we are from our parents starts when we're toddlers, it continues when we're teenagers, and it doesn't really end fully until we're 22 or 23. It's the reason I don't work with mothers that are younger than that, because they have a hard time seeing their parents and their childhood as anything other than normal, fine, great, whatever happened during it. So when that process of disentangling happens, we can then start to see the ways in which we perhaps might not have acted in the same way of our parents, the ways in which perhaps our beliefs, our fears, our values aren't in alignment, which is good, right? It's healthy. We're independent people. We are not our parents. But until you do that work, because it requires work, we don't automatically suddenly realize that we're independent people. A lot of our inherited beliefs and values and fears come from our parents without us even realizing. So we need to do the work to extricate ourselves from our parents. And until you do that work, you are going to be merged. Therefore, of course, you're going to take things personally, especially from your parents. If they are sad, if they are angry, if they are suffering, if they are in physical pain, if they are whatever it is that brings out a reaction in you, it's very hard not to take that personally if you are still merged, because you haven't yet done the work to make sure that you are not the same person mentally, emotionally. Secondly, if you experience a childhood where your parents weren't necessarily there for you in all the ways that you needed, they may have tried their best, but that best wasn't enough. You didn't feel understood, you didn't feel seen, you felt coerced into doing things that you didn't want to do. Perhaps discipline was exacted through fear, through power over. Perhaps they were quite authoritarian, quite strict. You weren't allowed to be who you needed to be. In that case, again, of course you're going to take things personally, because their rejection was super, super important to you. It was literally, as a child, a matter of life or death if they rejected you, because rejection means rejection from the family unit. And if a child isn't part of the family unit, then how are they going to survive? They can't survive by themselves out in the big wide world. So rejection had to be avoided at all costs. Disappointment, feeling you've done something wrong, or you've got something that you're bad, you did something bad, something to annoy or frustrate your parents. So if you need to avoid that at all costs, then of course every single emotion that your parents showed you, you'd have had to have taken very personally. You'd have probably become highly sensitive to their moods. I had a client who said she was so highly attuned to her mother's moods, she knew what kind of mood her mother was in by the way she put down her keys when she came in the evening. So this is the way that we become if we don't feel safe. We are highly attuned to our parents' needs and moods in order to know whether we need to have a trauma response, fight, flight, fawn, freeze, to protect ourselves or not. Therefore, if you're highly sensitive, if you take things to heart, if you take things personally and it's really hard for you to let go of them, don't worry. This is not a fault. It is a coping mechanism. It is the way that you had to be in order to survive. Can you fix it? Of course you can. The first step is awareness. The second step is understanding when this coping mechanism started, unpacking all of that, releasing the emotions associated with that. And the third step is reparenting that poor little girl inside who is the one that adopted that coping mechanism, the one that never felt safe enough to truly relax and to not have to be attuned to everyone else's needs. In the end, your parents should have been attuned to your needs. That's what parents are meant to do. But if our parents weren't able to do that for whatever reason, it's likely that you became a parentified daughter and it was the wrong way around. So don't worry if you have this trait. If you take things personally, you can fix it. But rest assured for now that it's not your fault and there's nothing wrong with you, and it's completely normal, and it makes total sense if you take things to heart and it takes a long time to get over it. Lots more tips and tools on my blog on laviniabrown.com/blog. Hope that was helpful.